Well, hello everybody. Happy Monday and welcome to a wonderful new week. Wherever in the world you are, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and may it be delightful. May you have a delightful week. And yay, we've got Miles Johnston again this evening. Looking forward to chatting with him about the infiltration of Western civilization. Miles is in the throes of planning his conference in June, so hearing some about what's compared to there. I'm back, I see. Oopsie. Okay, but before I disappear again, let's bring the schedule on so we can just do our weekly announcements. And okay, so this evening with Miles. Tomorrow, Tuesday at 6 o'clock, which is 2 hours later than now, wherever you are, Penny Brown. I had a great interview with her again on Friday evening. I think we chatted, and that was really fantastic. Then bright and early, 9 o'clock on Wednesday morning. So wherever you Americanos are, and it'll probably be a little bit in the middle of the night for you. But for those of you who suffer from insomnia, Dr. Jorg Prince on Solutions with Chantelle. Great German doctor who's an ex-medical doctor, now working very much with the natural field. And we're going to be talking about how to reverse, the ailments, illnesses in the body, and how do we actually start reversing that, because that is very possible. When we consider we made up of sound, frequency, and vibration, right? And then, of course, Jessie, Trouble with Jessie on Wednesday. So join us for that. In the Field with Shanti. Yes, I'm back this week on Thursday. And we're going to be talking about the reading. I do believe that would be the one where you are the problem. If you perceive yourself to be the problem, or the protection patterning that surrounds that energy. And then Friday evening, possibly Taylor Northcutt. I have to say, probably not though, because I just want to say that this week I'm away I've got family weddings and things on, so I'll be away a couple of days. Next week, Monday as well, I won't be here. I'm actually celebrating my birthday belatedly with my siblings. For once in a blue moon, my siblings from all over the world are here for a family wedding, so we'll be gathering. So I won't be here for days. Anyway, well, let's bring Miles on.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a bit of a problem here.
To see you. How are you?
Now, last week I ended up doing two shows with the same shirt on because I was double booked. Right? Some of my best interviews I do when I'm not there. But right now I'm avoiding a really serious issue because you women out there would know about this. Being a man, I don't know about this. I've been called a fashion victim. But I have got my denim jacket, and Chantelle has her denim jacket. So that's why I'm not wearing it, because obviously telepathically using my psychic powers, I knew that she was going to be wearing that. So now I've got to put it somewhere.
Well, I got the memo. I got the memo.
Sorted out. These things are important.
I got the memo loud and clear.
Well, I finally got got my speakers lined up. I haven't got 100% confirmations, but we're doing a second full European or international disclosure in June, end of June. And I might, since I brought the subject up, Chantelle, we're going to have Draco Reed. He's an American, and God damn it, you damn well face up to that fact. He's actually sneaked into the United Kingdom a few times. I was going to slag him off being American, that he doesn't know which side of the road to drive on, but that was useless. He'd been here many times. He knew about driving the road. He even drove the rental car without any problem. There were no major road accidents and pileups because Draco Reed was driving down the M25 anyway. And that was for the December conference. And would you believe it that an American coming from Florida would dare to complain about the British weather or the Irish weather or any kind of weather in this part of the world? Right now, it's bloody freezing and miserable and wet. We had a bit of a storm yesterday. Apart from that, I'm not certainly complaining about the weather. So Draco Reed has got a huge amount of stuff on the SSP, and he's extremely good at. He's got a whole healing therapy thing as well. So he must be in touch with the feminine side. So he'll be doing a workshop in June, which is the 19th, 20th, and 21st. And I've just had a confirmation from Laura Eisenhower. Now, Laura, do you know who Laura Eisenhower is, Chantelle?
I do indeed.
You do? She does. She does. I think Laura would normally do a very spiritually orientated, empathic type of a talk. But we're going to see what she's dug up about what was really going on with the Mars-Moon system and with the Germans in the 1920s. So that's a bit of a leader on that. Now we've just done a two-way. We've done a two-way with another great American guy who's living and doing an awful lot of work in Mexico, and he's also very, very switched on psionic technologies and healing energies. And he picked up when I was under energetic attack in the summer last year. He said, it's nothing we can help you with. So I had to just deal with it on my own. Now, what's happened is that Sean Bond has been guided or brought to various sites in Mexico, and he's been recovering these carved, large, long-skulled artifacts. Now, these are not a long skull. These are long. These are amazing. And what's carved on these skulls are all kinds of very long-skulled ETs, some of them with wings and other types of beings. I don't think we should really call them ETs because these have been people who've been living here. I'm sure your audience is aware of the long skulls of South America. But I don't know how many thousands of these skulls there are in warehouses in South America. I mean, you're talking.
I would actually love to do a show on that, Miles, because we actually have never covered that. So it would be really interesting to speak about stuff like that. Very, very interesting to do that.
There are a number of
interesting.
There's a number of TV shows, Discovery, Ancient Alien sort of stuff on that. But what he has discovered, what he's finding is incredible. Now, we have a local researcher here in Marlborough. I'm here in Marlborough, which is posh end of Devizes in Wiltshire. And there's a local empathic dowser. She was very highly trained. Her father was a very brilliant dowser, and she's called Maria Wheatley. Now, she's been doing her own research. Right. She's a passionate woman and doing her own work and getting a lot of flack from organizations like English Heritage and the National Trust and people like that, because she's digging up stuff literally, which is absolutely incredible. And she's got a film called The Ancient History of Stonehenge, or Secrets of Stonehenge. And that's on release. I think it's going to be available on Netflix. I think it's called The Secret History of Stonehenge, and by Maria Wheatley. And the film was produced by a guy called Jonathan, whose second name I forget, but it's a very beautifully made film. And the bottom line is that she has discovered that long-skulled people, a tribe of long-skulled people, not very tall, but they had long skulls, and they actually arrived here in England, where they built Stonehenge, which was a beautiful, polished stone construction. It was absolutely beautiful, and this was done a long time ago, obviously, but it was done by long-skulled people. And then a new batch of new tribes of people arrived in this part of the world. I don't like calling it England, because it wasn't England then. It was like the islands off the coast of Europe, linked to Ireland. In those days, you could walk across, the sea level. It was a different place, but I don't like identifying it particularly. Anyway, it's in England here, it's Wiltshire. And they were called the Beaker people, and they had round skulls like what we have. But the point is that it was a wonderful opportunity during the week where I had Sean Bond talking about his long skulls in Mexico. Now, what he's digging up quite literally are on high mountain areas where this material has not been covered with lots of extra layers of soil. So it's relatively near the surface, and there's a lot of questions have to be answered. I've just been recently, deposited or whatever. But the point is, these skulls have got telepathic, empathic powers. And Maria Wheatley, she's done her work here, and there are long barrows here, where this is on Salisbury Plain, and I can't get the exact numbers, but you're dealing with the longest long barrow in England, full of long-skulled people who were all precisely dispatched. And this is on a ley line. And this is where the ley line wars, the energy wars on the planet, using the planet's energy fields, it wasn't just the Germans doing that in World War II. This goes back to how these things were established. They were changing the energies and doing things to the world. So they had a global perspective, and they were using energetics as weapon systems to change things from a hostile point of view and also a defensive point of view. The Germans were well into that, and that was one of the things about Zener, and I've talked about that before. But Maria was able to. I just sort of said, Maria, hello, and this is Sean, and basically they both just started talking. And I mean, who am I? I just sort of hit the take me off the screen button, and they just talked for like 90 minutes, just kept on going. And I had another interview scheduled for 6 o'clock, and I just said, look, guys, okay, blah 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 blah. So this is a wonderful opportunity, and that's going to be available. It's now available as a promo for the 2026 International Disclosure Conference, where those two just start talking. I just sit back and watch and pay attention. So this is a very unique opportunity where you have an American long skulls expert, somebody doing raw new material, and he actually shows video of extracting a skull. You're talking something like that. You're dealing with at least a foot length of a back skull with a very large neck area, and it's covered with carvings. And also he showed a pyramid, and also he showed an octoform ET in the pyramid. And then I had another discussion with somebody. It was called I was so busy. I've been so busy, Chantelle. Busy. Sun's coming out now. So and this wonderful lady called Rebecca Hardcastle Wright. Now, the Wrights are got some kind of connection with my family, but she then twigged on octopuses being in 8 dimensions. So they're a life form existing in multiple dimensions. And this particular octoform, which apparently they live on one of the moons of Saturn, or they are able to live there in the native environment, probably Europa, I don't know, but don't shoot me on that one. So this is a connection with a different speaker who's connecting with something that somebody else has said in just a couple of days of talking. So that's just amazing. It's amazing. So that's Maria Wheatley just sitting there doing her subtle. She plays her cards very, very quietly, very close to her chest. And it's amazing how those two got on together. So they're going to be on stage on the 20th of June at Bases 2026. Get the year. And that's big deal. Dr. Amir Jahangiri, who's an Iranian Irishman, he's got amazing skills of remote viewing and all that sort of stuff. And then we got another troublemaker from the Azores. Have you heard of Patricia Corey? No? You haven't? Chantelle? No. Okay.
Our sound is very bad. I don't know if it's coming from me or you, but I'm
finding that our link is very, very.
So just carry on.
Yeah, the link is very poor. So maybe I should not move my hands around. Okay. I've actually plugged in a network cable here to improve the link, so we'll see. Okay. So then we have Patricia Corey, and she's from the Azores. Now, later tonight, I'm talking to an new Irish contact, and she lives in the Azores, but she's got her husband in Ireland, and they're dealing with the mermaids, the mer people. That's 2 or 3 different types of people who know about the mer people. So she can't make the conference. So I'm not saying that Patricia Corey is a substitute, but they live in the same place, and it's going to be amazing to hear what she had to say about Atlantis, because somebody, a young person, found these pyramids still coated in their outer coating off the coast of one of the islands of the Azores, and then he was told to shut up. So that's amazing. Andrea Folks is one of our regulars, and she's an absolute darling, and she's up in Sedona right now. And then we have another troublemaker, Chantelle. You may have heard of her. Her name is Beverly Rhodes. Now, she really is a troublemaker. And then we got another lovely healer type lady called Jill Kirkham, and she's doing her stuff. And we got a wonderful witness, an experiencer called Venus Lay, I think that's her name. And she's going to be coupled with another brilliant woman called Susan Long. And I hope that Susan, she will, when she appears photographically, there's a sort of a shifting there, because she's meant to be a Lyran. She's a damn fine woman and gets on really well with Laura Eisenhower, and that's what matters. So is that all right for you at the moment, Chantelle? Are we still here? So anyway, I'll just keep talking. Maybe it's recording somewhere and it's going to be worthwhile. Now, the key to what's been going on here is that Lucy Wyatt, now she is a mathematician and genius. She's a very, very well thought of and deep thinker. Comes up with some things which are pretty controversial. So her research talks about the doom cult of Venice, the Venetian doom cult. Now, this is extremely important into terms of the context of the war that we've got. Essentially, the way this is developing into, I've had, I think, 6 different people explain that this war, keep my fingers out of shot, is about an ET war and those who infested and have invaded this planet and have taken control using so-called Western civilization. And as a consequence to what's going on, it's Western civilization who are taking a hit on this. Okay? So And also, there's a wonderful bunch of people called the Prometheus Project, Prometheus, I think. So they're very, very pro-Trump. But the key to it is this goes back to the American War of Independence, which is why America was basically created, although there's other reasons in there, and I won't go into them. But essentially, that's to separate from the British Crown and the infusion of ET parasitic entities, which infested the controlling structure of Europe, and they infused in from what we call the Venice. So when Bezos takes over the city of Venice to marry his token wife partner, and takes total control of the whole city at the behest of the locals, like, you're just irrelevant. That's an example of how an ET controlling structure. You've got to understand, the only reason these people have maintained human form is to just make ruling over us more convenient. They don't have to do that. And I would suspect, based on information I got from a very close friend of mine in France, Antoine Chigall. She's a brilliant researcher in Egyptian technologies and history. She gets to places where practically nobody else gets to, except for this guy, Syed Noah, who is now writing his book about the secret codes within Egyptian art and structures like the pyramids and the location of those and what they do. This infuses, this means that it's not necessarily relevant anymore whether these people maintain human form. So we've been talking about long skulls, very long skulled beings here, and they are, there's a sort of a pattern here. So what's been going on with the effect of what's happening with the oil fields is that this is affecting Lloyd's of London and the City of London. So that would appear that the attack on this is to attack those who originated the City of London. And I think that, see, the City of London is like the Vatican. It's a separate state within Britain. And effectively, there have been programs on BBC Radio, BBC 4 and other things. But really, why should the City of London bother by sharing its wealth with the rest of the United Kingdom? Because basically the United Kingdom has got practically no industry. It's full of basically unnecessary eaters, which is why they don't need to keep them alive anymore. Why keep your brood stock alive when it's just costing you money, that kind of a thing? So we can expect severe, catastrophic collapse of Western Europe because the fundamental controlling structure that's caused so much damage across the world is going to take a kicking. And if they're going to take a kicking, the people are going to take a kicking. So this is sort of like a warning to that, if that makes sense. If it does. So have I scared you? Have I scared the bejesus out of you yet? Keep calm and carry on. So that's one of the key factors. If we look at this war and the way that it's going and what's being blown up and what isn't being blown up and who's really being affected by this, you've got an ancient kingdom, i.e. the Persians, fighting a modern day war with a series of controlled structures, shall we say, who have caused massive destruction and mayhem across the planet, with very little consideration for really who it affects. Certain promises have been made by these creatures, and the basic ethos of these creatures is lie, promise, do whatever it takes just to get your objectives, and when you finish with that, just drop the lot. So the promises are worth nothing. people still believe them, but now the sort of message is getting out that these creatures are not to be trusted on in any level whatsoever. But then what do you do about it? And that's another thing altogether. So I hope this is going through. So that's the whole point of what's been done. Excuse me, that's a bit going down the wrong way there. Keep calm and carry on. So that's the important point about what's happening. A controlling structure is being revealed and being attacked, and it's in our interests to respond to that, but you don't tell people on the internet about it. So I'm just going to leave that as an open statement. The other thing that's happened is that a lot of targeted individuals, this phenomena or this social structure of targeted individuals, we now know that what's been going on is that the targeted individuals, a hell of a lot of us are being taken, put into these programs, and then brought back, so we don't notice that we've actually been gone. But it's now becoming clear with the 20 and Back program and with other people remembering things that we're being made aware of a massive, well, I think 10 or 15 years ago, 15 years ago, we used to call it the breakaway civilization. I think people like Richard Dolan and Richard Hoagland and others would talk about what was called the breakaway civilization. This evidence for this was revealed by Gary McKinnon, where he found that NASA had a whole secret officer corps belonging to something different to the so-called NASA program. And it's not a coincidence that during this war, which is I think it's now 2 weeks old or whatever, 20, whatever, yeah, 20, more than 2 weeks old now, is that we're dealing with a situation where we're dealing with secret controlling structures. And that's what this doom cult is. And it's called a doom cult because it's fundamentally doom from our perspective. So that's been revealed. Now, the point about these long-skulled people, the way they were laid out in the in these mass graves, there must be a reason for the mass graves, and that's why they do it, and that's why they harness the soul energies, and that's what we've been talking about in operations like at East Noyle, where the body swap bodies, human bodies are swapped with ET souls in them. Is that they're controlling on a hyperdimensional or interdimensional scale. And we as perceivers are being used to construct the false narrative so that it looks good and we just play along. So with all those targeted individuals, which every time I interview a targeted individual, the first thing I tell them is don't call yourself a target. Call yourself an empowered individual. And another wonderful young lady that I interviewed during the week, she's called Marie Ann, I think. And she died at the age of 2 as a member or a friend of the family abused her, and that individual throttled her to the extent to stop her screams so her parents wouldn't find out, and her parents still didn't know. But then she died, and then she did what I call a bounce back. And a lot of the key people that were involved with the stuff that we did in the pirate radio thing, social engineering and stuff like that, reality management in Ireland with the pirate stations, to expand the consciousness of the Irish, and they leaped forward and progressed immensely fast in the 1980s, 90s, and into what was eventually described as the Irish Tiger, I think it was called, where just phenomenal wealth and progression of their daily lives and waking up and using their individual abilities to massively expand across the world in a much more positive and powerful way, as opposed to being, oh, we're Irish and we're kept down, or whatever it is. The point about this is an opportunity for us as targeted individuals to become empowered individuals. That young woman at the age of 2 died when she came back during the time when she's being abused, and she fought back. She had suddenly a whole range of extremely powerful talents and abilities and could fight back. So the point about this is that once you realize that we are being conned, we're being used to construct, or for want of a better term, dig our own graves, we can de-exist and attack those who are taking us as boots on the ground, as perceivers on the ground. They've taken us into these programs, chipped us, so we are viewing for them, and they have an artificial intelligence type matrix system which feeds off all the perceivers who have been targeted, and so there's been millions of human beings out there chipped, all feeding information from all across the world, feeding all kinds of information, because essentially you are eyes and ears on the ground, and you're also eyes, ears, and perceivers and manifestors on the ground. So once you understand that you're being conned, you can de-exist the parasite control grid and wipe it out. And the simple way to do that is to simply jump off your little mouse wheel, get off that, and decouple it, and let the mouse wheel just plow, and this is metaphor, and wipe out these creatures which are parasiting on us. And that's what I suggest people do. And Chantelle, I hope I've been able to be heard on that, but that's the basic message. If you're able to get back to us, and I've got another. So the conference at the Basis 2026 conference. What's happening is that I always like to try and bring in what I like are wise ladies, and I like them a lot to teach their wisdom, because that's what I really like to push. So what we always try to do is bring in fresh experiencers, people who maybe haven't been on stage at all, and tell their story. So there's always a couple of extra slots there, and Venus is one of them, and she's a fine girl, and she's had her experiences, and she comes from originally the third sun of the Orion, the third planet of the third sun of Orion. And she has a name, and she has a race type that she would discuss and talk about. But the point about that is, this is an opportunity to embrace with other beings on a peaceful and positive way, and work together, bearing in mind that all countries, all distinct groups will have their own agendas, and they'll have their own political control structure. So always bear in mind, like for instance, right now we've got a situation where the United States of America are displeased with Britain. But there's fairly good reason for that, because one particular aspect of this special relationship seems to have completely collapsed since the governmental structures of Britain are in complete free fall. All of them have been shown to be completely traitorous and treacherous, and this goes right across Europe. I don't think there's any secret about that. And that's going to be a very serious problem for people on the ground, i.e. likes of you and I, like our own selves. What's this going to do to affect how we live and get on with everyday life? So we've got to become more empowered and use our natural abilities, which are awakened natural abilities, and use those in a positive way to sort this problem out. So that's so I think when you see a skull this long, big eye sockets, extremely long back of the head, and one of the arguments against a lot of the sort of long skull thing is this is where the late Lloyd Pye, when he discovered the star child, and really what he discovered, or what this nurse discovered in Mexico, was the breaking of the dam in terms of these artifacts and skeletons and burials of definitely non Homo sapiens beings on this world who'd passed away or mated with us or somehow worked together with us in some way over thousands of years ago. So you had one of the things that the late Lloyd Pye discovered about the star child was, in order for that to work, the skull to work, it's the back of the skull and where the muscles can hold the skull properly and balance on a neck. One of the things about the greys, in a lot of the stories about the greys and things like that, is that the neck's too small. So how does it doesn't fall off? So you got to look at the engineering of a skull and how does that work and why does it function? So is it real or faked? And he worked tirelessly on this right up to the end of his life, and managed to get a young team of scientists who had nothing to lose. They didn't have reputations to lose and budgets to lose, and they found that this star child was born of artificial insemination. In other words, the human egg was human, but the actual DNA of the being in that egg was alien, not too far away from the human DNA structure, but close enough. But in order for it to be born, in other words, it was an alien baby. They called it the star child, which is the wrong name, but it meant that it could be born of a human woman. So you had a human woman's womb was able to basically breed this baby, and that involved basically artificial insemination. Now, the whole point about in terms of fertility clinics, it was the ability to generate transhumanized program-generated life forms, i.e. making aliens here in our biology and our mathematically dense energy field, physically an alien living here, as opposed to a being from another dimension coming in and not been able to sustain physicality here. So this was a way of the soul swapping operations and also transhumanization of beings here in this 3D heavy world. And I mean, the movies on the Jurassic Park, that would not work in this space-time, or what some people would call a gravity field, because the size of a dinosaur wouldn't physically been able to walk about in this 3D space-time field or space-time density field. So you couldn't actually bring these dinosaurs back in this world. It's a bit like effectively bringing a surface-dwelling human, and then being at the bottom of the deepest part of the ocean, and then bringing that back into life in the bottom of the ocean. And as soon as it walks into the density of the water, or if it was to naturally try to swim or be in the density of the depths of the ocean, it would be crushed. So, because the density of the space-time at the bottom of the ocean with the pressure of the water is so heavy that it wouldn't work. I'm trying to use that as why you get the bends when you come up from the deep, not that deep, that our biology is so frail that we have to go through decompression chambers. So That means that when the dinosaurs were created, or when the dinosaurs were about, we were living in a different space-time domain. And that is possibly due to the arrival of the moon. The arrival of the moon and the moon Earth energy field would have changed, and therefore the size of beings on the Earth would have changed because of the space-time field that it involves. Now, the lady I was talking to, again, there's an awful lot of stuff. Robert Temple is one who is talking about intelligent plasma energies outside the Earth. So when you leave the Earth, you're not in a vacuum, you're in a plasma energy field, which is intelligent and moves around. So there is a dense energy field as the moon rotates, the front of the moon as it rotates around the Earth, and there's an energy field behind the moon in its wake as it rotates. And that's what astronomers have been looking at. So the intelligent energy and the dynamics of a fluidic space, coherent living being, able to migrate between dimensions and reassemble itself, as it's been shown on some films and movies and things. That is something that I think we encountered when we did the pirate radio thing, Energy 106, where as we were on the air for approximately 10 years, broadcasting without a license, running just short of a megawatt of dance music into Belfast, that radio station, which I was the engineer on and co-creator with a guy called Lawrence John in Belfast, that was being used to conduct a number of tests that, in the event that you had an uncontrolled information source, that's to say that a radio station which accesses the consciousness of beings, and that's what the BBC did with Radio 1. And of course, the head of that was, of course, Jimmy Savile. And I'm not talking about the head, but the key influencer there was Jimmy Savile. And we know what all that meant. And of course, that brings in Epstein and the whole connections with that. And Epstein brings in Bimini Island and the islands in the Atlantic, and that brings in Atlantis. And so to have somebody from the Azores, two people from the Azores, talk about Atlantis and having found pyramids, sunken pyramids, essentially seems Atlantis was on the ridge down the center of the Atlantic, but it was a wider. Wasn't a single city as such, but I mean, that's another debate. The point about it is that we have got the opportunity as targeted individuals, people who've been implanted and selected and taken at birth or young age or whatever age, put into the secret space program, put into these other perception management systems. I call it an RMS, reality management system. Because if you're able to reality manage perceivers, you can make new realities. And that's what these mobile phones are doing. Mobile phones are devices which collapse the quantum wave function into 2D, which collapses that into computer systems, which collapses you into a Tron-type matrix, which they want to create, otherwise some called the metaverse. So have I connected enough dots there, darling? Okay, we've got a few difficulties with this show today. Now, the first thing I'm going to show is I'm going to show the mesmeric end wheel. When this turns and slows down, you will be assimilated into, I mean, that's a bit of a joke. It's a bit of a toy I've got. Chantelle's having problems, which is not surprising. So the important thing is that you are number crunchers. You perceive things. You think. They've been managing that using our broadcast and perception management systems, which is why when those pirate stations came on the air way back in the 1960s, that was such a a shock to the system. MI5 took control of the situation. They then brought in relevant people to manage those radio stations, and they had to get them off the air quick, so they only lasted about 3 or 4 years. But one of them was Radio Caroline, and that stayed on the air for a hell of a long time, and it was somehow protected. And so I was able to run a radio station called Kiss FM 103.7 at the end of my career in pirate broadcasting. Well, it wasn't really the end, it was sort of halfway through. But I'd been at the BBC at the time, and I was running a pirate station in the middle of Belfast on this. And the ability to do that is very important. So we were able to information manage an awareness, a brilliant awareness. So when I went to the, this is where I got this to 10 days ago, when I went to the Space Expo in London, they hold this space industry expo or exposition in the London XL. They also hold it in Scotland, and they used to do it in Dubai. I don't think anything's going to be happening in the Arab countries now. They're anyway. They were artificial constructs anyway, built after by the British Empire, the early part of the. Anyway, I'm sideswiping. I think I've almost. The point is to see, as a result of what we were doing, an awareness awakening, to see the biggest stand at that Space Expo last week, 10 days ago, was from Northern Ireland, with all those brilliant small industries contributing a tremendous amount of good ideas and first-class engineering into the British space industry, and also to NASA. We had a guy here having coffee last week with a good friend of mine from Project Libertas. And he was part of a team developing the heat shield for the space shuttle. So that was amazing. So this is an opportunity for you to wake up and apply your thoughts and abilities. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to have a lot of money, but you have to be able to manifest and create wonderful things. If you do that, you get a lot of help. One of the things we're finding with AI, if you use it for nefarious purposes, you will be delimited and it will be shut down. Now, one of the things about Iran, and this is very, very important, the Iranians found that quite a substantial portion of Iranian oil contained sentient oil, a sentient fluid, and it communicated. And cutting to the chase, I won't tell you the circumstances and how the communication happened. It was very simple. The oil told the relevant people, we are here to clean up your mess. So it was very, very simple, people. We are either part of the problem, in which case we will be cleaned up as a mess, or we are part of the solution. So I will leave that with you and close the show. You're either part of the solution or you're part of the problem. And this oil that we've been using in our cars and things, which gets into the upper atmosphere when that oil goes into the engine and the engine breaks it up and sprays it into the atmosphere, that means all of that cognitive sensitivity of that oil is going around the whole planet, and it ain't happy. So become part of the solution and not the problem. Chantelle, how are you doing? Good day. I think I've got a freeze frame of you. So
yeah,
I will simply say, until the next exciting episode, same time, same place, Aquarius Rising Africa. Thank you to Chantelle Maybury. It's not a Maybury, is it? It's Maybury, isn't it? Yeah, that's we're pushing thumbs up here, and Yeah, thumbs up. So anyway,
So
the best wishes
good.
to you, Chantelle. Good night.
Mwah.